Welcome to Holz Rubber How to Field Measure Expansion Joints Training. In this segment, we will cover how to field measure expansion joints so that your replacement joints are the perfect fit for the best performance. It is important to know the correct size and orientation of your piping system to ensure that your replacement expansion joint will perform correctly. Since piping systems move over time, the original dimensions of your existing expansion joint may no longer be valid. In order to properly measure the connections, you will need some basic tools that will help you to determine what information to provide to Holz Rubber Company. These tools may include a pie tape, tape measure, a square, a level, and a notepad. Other tools may be required depending on the orientation and alignment of the existing joint. If you can take pictures, it helps Holz understand the application if you're having issues. When you are visiting a plant, make sure you have the proper safety gear. The first measurement that must be verified is the face-to-face between the mating flanges. The face-to-face is also known as the breech opening and will determine the overall length of the new joint. When measuring the face-to-face dimension, it is important to measure in more than one location in case the flanges are not parallel. Holz expansion joints can be custom engineered to match up to the mating flanges even if the flanges do not line up correctly with each other. Since you will be measuring in more than one location, it is important to think of the mating flanges as a clock face. Measuring at 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock will ensure that your new joint will have the correct face-to-face. If you are using a pie tape to measure the OD of the expansion joint flange, it is used by wrapping the pie tape around the outside edge of the mating flange. If you do not have a pie tape or if the flange is too large, you can use a flexible or fabric tape measure to obtain the circumference. Divide the circumference by pi, which is 3.14, to obtain the outside diameter. Contact our inside sales team if you need assistance. Sometimes expansion joints are used to connect dissimilar sized equipment, so be sure to measure both mating flanges since they may be different sizes. One of the benefits of an engineered, hand-built rubber expansion joint is that they can make up for piping misalignments or offsets. It is important to know if your pipes don't line up quite right because you will need to measure how far they are offset from each other. This is where your level and square will come in handy. Measuring the offset can be tricky, but there are ways to determine the amount of offset, such as using a level and a tape measure as shown. If the expansion joint is mounted vertically, the offset can be determined by using a plumb bob and a tape measure. If you are unsure how to measure any offset, contact our inside sales team for guidance. Since offsets can exist in more than one direction, it is important to get the offset measurement in the 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, and 9 o'clock positions. The four measurements will allow Holz to design and manufacture the right joint for the application. Expansion joints are commonly mounted with fasteners and occasionally band clamps. If you are measuring a joint that uses fasteners, it is important to specify where the bolt holes must be drilled in the new joint so it can be built correctly. The industry standard is ANSI 150-pound or ANSI 300-pound drilling. If the expansion joint is located in a challenging area and you cannot measure the drill pattern, the joint can be manufactured without bolt holes and drilled in the field. To measure the bolt hole diameter, it is easiest to measure across one of the mounting bolts and provide that information to Holz. The bolt holes are typically 1/8 of an inch larger than the fasteners for ease of installation. It is crucial to know how many bolt holes will need to be drilled in the new joint. Count all the bolt holes around each mating flange. It does not hurt to double-check the bolt pattern since you are in the field. When inspecting the flanges, look at the bolt holes to make sure that they line up between the flanges as shown. The 12 o'clock position will help determine if the holes are on the center line. If the bolt holes do not align with each other, you will need to determine how far they are misaligned. You can measure this by finding the absolute top of each flange and then measuring the distance to the center of the first bolt hole on both flanges. The difference between the measurements is your flange rotation. Holes can drill the flanges so that your joints will line up correctly by using this measurement. The bolt circle diameter is the distance between the center of the bolt holes across the flange face. This measurement tells the manufacturer how far apart the bolt holes will need to be drilled. If you cannot measure across the flange face because the existing joint is still in place, you can measure from the center of one bolt hole to the outside diameter of the flange. Then you can multiply your answer by 2 and subtract it from the outside diameter that you measured earlier. We hope you found this segment educational. Please contact Holz Rubber for more information.